Hi everyone! As you can tell by the title of this video, today I'm going to be talking about social anxiety in the context of a social event or a party, because it affects so many people, even people that don't deal with day-to-day anxiety. Social anxiety is so incredibly common, and at some point in everyone's life people are going to feel sort of nervous or anxious in a social situation. Now, because it's such an incredibly broad subject, I don't really want to waffle on for like half an hour. So I'm just going to literally kind of bullet point key things that help me deal with my anxiety in social situations. Number one is rationalisation. A lot of the time I think we blow things up in our minds, and instead we should be putting ourselves in other people's shoes. So say you're nervous that you're going to say something stupid, do something stupid. A lot of the time, you think that people are going to judge you. You think that people are going to think, oh God, like, what's she doing? She's such a wreck. Can't believe she did that, la la la. But in reality, people aren't going to judge you, and if they do, then to be honest, they're not really the kind of people that you want to care about anyway. And instead you should be thinking, well, if I were in their situation, would I judge me? And of course you wouldn't. Everyone says like weird things. It's just not a big deal. And the second thing that lends to that is don't overanalyze, because other people aren't going to. My biggest problem is that when I actually leave the party, I then analyse everything I've said. I think, oh God, I said this, I shouldn't have said this, I should have said that. People aren't going to do that. I don't analyse everything people have said to me, I'm only analysing what I've said. So why would other people analyse what you've said? It's just sort of some people, including myself, have incredibly overactive imaginations. The cogs in our brain are just constantly turning, and we think about all the different things that we could have done differently. Instead, you should just say, well, I said it, it doesn't matter either way, other people aren't going to be thinking about it, so you just need to learn to let it go and move on. I know that this is an incredibly difficult thing to do. People are always saying to me, just move on, no one cares, and it's so incredibly difficult, but at some point you do have to just consciously tell yourself, I'm just not going to think about it, and distract yourself with other things, and eventually it just gets easier to let go of those feelings and to stop overanalyzing. My third tip is to plan conversation starters. This might seem a little bit anal and like you're really overdoing it, but if you have if you're quite shy or you have social anxiety, it can be difficult to approach people. And so a lot of the time, say if it's a party that people have been invited through Facebook, it's good to look at who's coming and plan ways to engage with them. I know that that might sound a little bit creepy, but it really, really helps. I know from experience that I can find it quite intimidating to try and talk to people, so I would say try and stick to sort of staple things. So I guess it depends on your age. If you're of school age, ask about school, ask about what subjects they're doing, ask about, if they've got loads of work on, if they share a class with you, how's your homework going, that kind of thing. If you're at work, then, ask about their families, ask about, I don't know, there's so many different things you can ask about. I'm going to leave a link in the description below about sort of starting conversation and approaching people, but it doesn't hurt in your head to think of the kind of things that you want to say. Something quite similar to that I use pretty much every time I go to a social event is to count yourself down. Now, I guess I'm a slightly competitive person. I think it works best on slightly competitive personalities, but when I think of something I want to say to someone in my head, at the same time I'm thinking of all the ways that they could take it wrong, all the, ways that I could mess it up. I think that a lot of people with social anxiety are just really afraid of being judged and about like messing up what you're going to say. And so for me, I like to count down from 5 and tell myself that when I get to 1, I'm going to talk. So the other day, here's a little life story, I went to go and see a friend's play, and it was kind of like, basically I didn't know anyone there, and I was sat next to this girl, and there was kind of a slight awkwardness. Maybe it was just me imagining it, but I'm pretty sure I wasn't imagining it. It was just very quiet. when there should have been noise. I know a lot of you will kind of know that situation. And so I thought, oh, I can ask her who she's here for, because I'd never met her before. And yet in my mind I was thinking like, oh God, can I do that? Oh, should I just keep my mouth shut? And so instead I counted myself down from 5 and told myself that when it got to 1, I was going to open my mouth and speak to her. And I did. I asked her, you know, who are you here for? And it started a conversation. And so I would say that sort of counting down really does gear you up to talk. I know that maybe not everyone can force themselves to do it on 1, but I'd say it's a really good thing to give a try. Similar to what I described in my dealing with crowd anxiety video, I would say have an escape plan. If you're at a social event and you really just don't feel like you can handle it, I think that everyone kind of knows their limits, and sometimes it's good to push it and to stay longer. Sometimes you just have to think, I'm going to pick my battles, today is not one, I'm leaving. A lot of the time, particularly if you're sort of putting yourself out there for the first time at a social event when previously you would be too anxious or too scared to go, then I think it's good to set a time that you're going to leave and make it clear that you're going to leave at that time, because that gives you something to work towards. So if there's a party that finishes at 12 and you don't want to stay till 12, you only want to stay till 11, tell the organiser or tell the friends that you're with, oh actually I'm going to leave at 11. Don't leave any room for argument, any room for them to say, oh no, 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 stay, stay. Say that you're leaving at 11, and then if you are feeling quite bad or quite anxious, shy, uncomfortable throughout the party, you can look at the clock and work your way towards that time that you've set yourself. Now, if you're feeling really good and you don't want to leave at 11, you sort of have 2 options. You can either leave on a high or push yourself. It's up to you, but setting a slightly earlier time to go gives you that chance to leave, or it gives you that chance to stay on if you're feeling good and feeling confident. I would also say it's good to put yourself out there, but at first try not to put too much pressure on yourself and just stay with the people you know. Almost 100% of the time there's going to be someone that you've met before at this event. You know, stay with them, use the tips that I was giving you earlier about conversation starters and counting down, engage with them, and then it becomes easier to engage with others naturally. I think that human nature, we kind of approach people in packs almost. We're more likely for like a group of people to start chatting to another group of people instead of a group of people and one person. So I'd say try and sort of stick with the people that you know and then branch out. I think that there's nothing wrong with sort of sticking in your comfort zone to begin with and then branching out. It can be too intimidating to tell yourself immediately that you're going to go in and talk to a load of strangers and make new friends. So to begin with, to make yourself more comfortable, I would say stick with who you know. I would also say that faking confidence is probably the thing that I do the most. Now, I know that a lot of people struggle with this. For me, I was a very confident person, so sort of when I go into these events, I don't let other people know that I'm nervous about it. I think that if you speak with a great amount of confidence, if you smile a lot, if you sort of just nod along, if you do make a mistake, you know, maybe you mumble up your words or something, just laugh it off, act like it's no big deal. I know that this can be really difficult for some people, but a lot of the time I like to sort of think of it as I'm going in as a different person, and in the long term this isn't the best thing, obviously, because you need to be comfortable with yourself. But I think while you're still trying to build up some confidence, tell yourself that you're this like super confident person. You can go in, you can talk to anyone. If you trip over your words, just laugh it off. So I would say sort of make sure that you put yourself out there, make sure that you seem relaxed, and eventually you start to believe yourself. The last thing I would say is don't feel obliged to entertain or to talk if you don't want to. Now, I know from experience that a lot of the time I feel like if there's a lull in the party or the event and sort of people are looking around as a way to sort of fill it, I feel a lot of pressure to be the person, to move the party forward or to entertain other people. I'm not sure why, That's just the kind of personality type I am. I know that there'll be a lot of people that feel the exact same way, but you shouldn't put pressure on yourself going into it to be this super engaging person that can entertain everyone. If you don't feel up to it, don't put that pressure on yourself. No one's going to judge you for it. If you need to go and take a quiet minute away, no one's going to judge you for it. Just step out, catch your breath, come back in. It's no big deal. A lot of the time we think that we're the only one that feels uncomfortable, and yet when you go outside to take a breather, you'll probably find that there's lots of other people out there, because, you know, parties can be overwhelming. There's nothing that you should sort of be embarrassed about for saying that. Even now, as I'm sort of overcoming a lot of my really severe anxiety, I still have moments at parties where I think, oh, you know what, I'm feeling kind of uncomfortable, or I'm very hot, there's lots of people around. There's absolutely nothing wrong with stepping outside and just taking a breather from it. I hope that you found this video useful. I know that these are kind of very vague, general tips about how to deal with party anxiety, but I hope that, you know, you can sort of take them and look into them deeper. I'm going to leave some links in the description below about sort of how to overcome social anxiety and about party scenarios, that kind of thing.